to the point where, because they were so inebriated and just buff boys, we were almost scared to shush them because we knew it would mean they would just turn around and deck us in the face. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it. This is the first time you're seeing my face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy and I like to do story times and chit chats on this channel, but today's video is going to be somewhat of a story time review. I'm going to be telling you all about my experience at the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival and my overall thoughts and ways it can be improved if they were to continue this on to next year. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck are you talking about? There was a Netflix comedy festival? Yes, between April 28th and May 8th, there was a huge Netflix comedy special festival thing here in Los Angeles, and it was kind of a big deal. But I did hear kind of murmurs that a lot of people had no idea this was going on. But fret not, you guys. I will be telling you all about it, all about my experience, and what you can look forward to perhaps next year if this is something you want to check out. So if you like videos like this, of hanging out with me, chit-chatting about some cool things I'm up to, and starting a dialogue in the comments, then make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can join us for future videos. But without any more jibber-jabber, let's get on to what this festival was all about. So the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival is exactly what it sounds like. A giant comedy festival here in Los Angeles. It took place over the course of 11 days and featured 280 shows at over 30 venues. But the coolest part about this was that it featured every name in comedy you can imagine. Any big comedian you can think of was there. I'm talking Gabriel Iglesias, David Letterman, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, Kevin Hart, Seth Rogen, Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer. You may have heard of it because Dave Chappelle actually got tackled on stage during one of these Netflix is a Joke specials, so that was not great. But they also ranged in terms of venues. They were at the Forum, at smaller theaters, at the Hollywood Bowl, at Dodger Stadium, at Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena. I don't think I'll ever start saying that. But basically every comedian you can think of had a show here in Los Angeles during these 11 days, and it was branded as one of the biggest comedy festivals in LA. But the purpose is so that Netflix could essentially film all of these stand-up specials to put on their own platform. It's kind of genius because Netflix is trying to establish themselves as the comedy entertainment mecca in terms of where to go to view and listen to your favorite comedians. So I had heard about this festival quite a while ago, and what's interesting is that I heard about it and then I was interested in it, and then I decided I want to buy tickets, but all of the tickets that I wanted to really get were already sold out. So it was as if I saw like, oh, what's this festival all about? That sounds interesting. You know what? That sounds great. Let me see when Conan is. Oh, Conan's sold out? Oh shoot. Well, oh my God, my mom loves David Letterman. Maybe I could take her to see David. Oh, that one's sold out too? Oh, shoot. Oh my God, the guys from I Think You Should Leave are doing a real live stand-up show. That'd be so hilarious. Dang, that one's sold out too. So it was kind of interesting because it felt like all the shows that I wanted to see were already sold out after I even learned what this whole festival was about. But no big deal, there were still hundreds of other shows to choose from. And I mean hundreds, you guys. If you go and scroll through some of these comedians, there are comedians in there where I'm like, wait, that's a TikToker. Like, I know who that is, but other people wouldn't know who that is. Or wait, that's some obscure internet persona. I kind of want to see them. So they really did have a gamut in terms of range of comedians that you could go see. So there were still plenty to choose from. So now I'm gonna go chronologically of how I experienced the actual event and festival in general and give my little thoughts here and there, and then I'll give my overall review at the end. So this part's gonna be a little bit more of a sequential story time, if you will. But the first show that we went to was to see Neal Brennan at the Largo Theater in Beverly Hills. Now, Neal Brennan is Dave Chappelle's writing partner, which was kind of really interesting because just the night prior, Dave Chappelle had gotten tackled on stage. So our thoughts were, oh my gosh, is he gonna bring that up? Like, is that gonna be a big topic of what he talks about? Like, this is kind of very topical and interesting. But it didn't end up being that way. He went more of the approach of a very holistic set that was very performed and kind of scripted out, which I actually preferred because it felt like I was watching more of a show and not just some funny guy standing up there making jokes on a whim and seeing what kind of random laughs he could get. It felt very intentional and I really liked that. Just spoiler alert, Neal Brennan was my favorite of all of the shows. One, because he did have more of a set and more of a very planned sort of outline of what he was going to talk about. But I really enjoyed the venue as well. The Largo Theater was this very, very small, intimate theater. And it felt like I could easily connect with him because not only was he 10 feet away, but everybody was just very focused on everything that he had to say. Now, what was also super cool is right before this event, I was talking to people and I was like, do you think like other comedians are gonna go to see the shows of other comedians? And they were like, no, like they'll go backstage. Like, why would they won't go to the show. They'll just be like, hey, I'm coming to your show. Can I come backstage? And I was like, oh, that's fair. So we go to the Largo, we sit down, and who walks right past us and sits right behind us is none other than the John Mulaney. And so I was like, I told you guys other comedians would be here. The best part about all of this was Neal Brennan had a joke about John Mulaney in his set, about how he got a divorce and he's kind of now the bad guy. And so it was so funny because when he was making these jokes, I had to like laugh like this, turn, and out of my peripheral vision, see if he was mad or not. He was laughing, so it was all good. But it was just kind of like an extra little bonus of, wow, we're all just here in this small little theater to enjoy this lesser known comic. And so are other comedians, so that was really cool. Now, in terms of a con that I noticed from this first initial show that I saw was there was no indication that it was part of a festival. There was no branding. There was no sign saying it was part of this Netflix is a Joke festival. There were no other types of conversation in terms of check out next week's shows or any type of prior shows linking to the show. There was no other promotion for anything else to do with the festival. It just felt like a one-off show. And this idea actually kind of continued for the next couple of days because on social media, I saw other people posting that they were at the Aziz Ansari show or that they went and saw Adam Sandler talk. And I'd message them being like, oh my gosh, you're going to the festival too? And they would answer like, what festival? I just saw Aziz wasn't performing and I really like him. Or festival, I just heard Adam Sandler was in town and I wanted to go get tickets. And so that's when I realized that from this point, it wasn't a holistic festival. Nobody was participating in multiple things. It was just very much people who were fans of very specific comedians were only going to see those comedians and that's it. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when I think festival, I think of, oh my gosh, like get your friends in from out of town, we all get together, we all go see multiple shows and really make a whole weekend about this. These all felt like very individual shows and not like a holistic experience, which I'll kind of get into a little bit more as we go on. But Neal Brennan was fantastic. His set was incredible. If you see it on Netflix, I highly recommend you check it out because it just felt very personalized, so I really like that. The next show that we went to was to see Bill Burr at the Forum. Now this was a 180 from this tiny theater at the Largo to the Forum, because this is where they do giant like Justin Bieber concerts. And this show felt like a wrestling match because it was just a stage in this circular arena that everybody was kind of watching around from, but our seats in particular were on the floor with little fold-up chairs, and we were like watching it from the side. So it full-on felt like a WWE wrestling match, which is also funny too, because it reminded me a lot of growing up. The only comedian that like I as a teenager liked was Dane Cook. I know, sue me, everybody had a Dane Cook phase. But you know that iconic like comedy special he had where he was just going like 360 all around this stage? That's definitely what it felt like in terms of this venue. It was just huge. What was also interesting about this show was they took away our phones. So you had to wait in this super long line. And when you get to the front of the line, they hand you this sleeve. You slide in your phone and then they like magnetize it like one of those like security tags at Target where you need the special machine to remove it. So you don't have access to your phone, and that's because they were obviously filming this for a Netflix special, so they didn't want phones out, but they also didn't want to spoil any of the jokes before it came out. So we head into the arena, which is, again, ginormous. We don't really have our phones. We take our seats on our little foldy chairs, and the issue we quickly learned with having a venue this ginormous is that it doesn't feel like an intimate show. It almost felt like a sporting match, and people were treating it like a football game, like a baseball game, where they were talking the whole freaking time. So the couple directly in front of us was so absurdly drunk, they were talking at a volume that was even too loud for outdoors. But the issue was they were like buff, like they were real big, to the point where because they were so inebriated and just buff boys, we were almost scared to shush them because we knew it would mean they would just turn around and deck us in the face. So we're like, oh, we can't even tell them to be quiet because they're just gonna get mad. Like, they were that drunk, they were that loud. But it was even more annoying because there was an usher like right at the end of our row, and we're looking over to the usher being like, can you tell these guys to shut the hell up? Like, oh my gosh, I can't hear anything. But all the ushers cared about was that people weren't wiggling out their phones from these little cases and taking bootlegs of the show for all of Instagram to see. And so it felt like their priorities weren't all there because I could not enjoy Bill Burr at all. I can honestly tell you, I don't remember any of his jokes. I don't remember any of his stories. And that's because the people talking were so distracting that I genuinely couldn't even hear what the show was about. I couldn't even hear what his jokes were. And so that was a little frustrating because there was just no audience etiquette, it felt like, but there was also just no types of ushers or no types of authority figures being like, hey guys, it's still a show, shut the hell up. So that was kind of annoying. So Bill Burr, I don't even want to grade him because I just couldn't even hear his set. I couldn't focus on all of his jokes, so I can't even give him a grade. So the next day, we heard that there was some type of free fan fest, and we had been going with some other people, and they were like, oh, we checked out the fan fest, like, it was kind of lame, don't go. And so we're like, well, we still want to see what this fan fest is all about. Like, I don't know, it's free. That's my favorite number. So we're gonna go check it out. So we head down to the Hollywood Palladium, and it was in this outdoor, almost like empty parking lot kind of thing. And you needed to like download tickets, but they were still free. So you download tickets, you walk through. And right away you realize it's kind of like a Netflix interactive museum. So what I mean by that was they had all of these different booths based on very famous Netflix shows. So the first thing we walked by was a photo kind of backdrop for Sex Education. Right next to that was some type of hand fighty thing for Cobra Kai. They had a mini golf course set where each hole was a Netflix theme, like Stranger Things, Emily in Paris, Bridgerton. Super cute, like kind of themed holes. Of Netflix, you get it. Then they had an inflatable obstacle course for Big Mouth / Human Resources. Then they had a Love is Blind set where you could go and like touch hands on the glass and see what it would be like if you were actually on Love is Blind and be like, so, what are you wearing? Oh my God, stop, I'm wearing a crop top. Oh, that's so hot. We should get married. That's like a direct quote from Love is Blind season 2 if you haven't seen it. God, it's awful. And then they had other fun branded things. They had, Netflix is a joke cornhole. They had Netflix is a joke Jenga. They had a bar set up. They also had a backdrop where you could be a comedian on stage and take photos like that. So as soon as we got in there, I was like, this is the branding I've been dying for. This feels more of like a festival, and this is what's gonna get you promoted on social media. I took so many photos in there. I took so many photos with backdrops saying Netflix is a joke festival. I took pictures of me playing Jenga and throwing the bag for cornhole. And I had people messaging me being like, oh my gosh, were you invited to this event as an influencer? And I was like, no, it's actually free to the general public, but nobody knows about it. But I was getting interactions on Instagram, and I feel like that's what you need for a festival. You need people to get talking about it on social media, and you need that branding in order to promote your own event. I don't know why I'm getting mad when they did it right at this point, but that's what you needed to do. But the best part about this free fan fest was they had drop-in comedians. They had comedians who were doing all these other 280 plus shows around town drop in and do like a little 5-minute set, which was so cool because you didn't know which comedians were gonna show up, but it was so good because the comedians ranged from like this random guy who only has like 1,000 followers on Instagram who was absolutely hilarious to, I kid you not guys, Bill Burr showed up at this free fan fest and did a set. Neal Brennan showed up at this fan fest and did a set. People that I was paying money to go see were going to this free event and doing a little teaser for their other shows. It was so genius because it got people excited to go see their shows. It got people to be like, wait, who is this guy? I ended up following like 10 comedians from this free fan fest because I was like, who is this guy? He's so random and hilarious. He reminds me of Andy Samberg. You know what? I'm gonna start following him. So that was super fun, but it was also really cool because, again, you don't know what kind of comedian you're gonna get, so you're exposed to other different types of comedy. And what I mean by that was one of the highlights of the whole week at this whole festival was during the day, we went to this free fan fest, and there was this musical comedy band called the Wolves of Glendale. And we're like, who are these? Who are these jokers? Who are these wannabe TikTokers with their viral sounds? What's going on here? They were incredible and hilarious. They just played songs that were funny. Like, they had a whole song about falling in love with a ghost at their house and how they had to sacrifice their dog to feed the ghost. Like, it was so beyond random, but it was so hilarious. But then they were also incredible improvisers, where they were talking to like people at over at Cornhole, and so then they just start improvising a song about cornhole. It was so wildly impressive, but it was probably one of the highlights, because it's like, wow, I haven't heard of any like comedy musical group since The Lonely Island, but here I am now following them on Instagram and on TikTok and seeing where they go, because they'll probably make it big. So the Fan Fest was so great in exposing you to different types of comedy, new comedians, but also giving you like a little bit of excitement of who's gonna drop by. Like, what if it is John Mulaney? At this free Fan Fest, I also got to see Jay Pharoah, which was super great because I used to love him on SNL. I also saw Fortune Feimster, who I was paying money to see later in the week. So it was just really cool. It was very interactive in terms of their booth. But again, it gave me more of that festival feel that I was absolutely craving. The last thing I'll mention about this Fan Fest that I really enjoyed was they had this museum of comedy, and it featured numerous pieces of memorabilia and knickknacks from very famous comedians or other type of comedy shows. And so I was absolutely geeking out, because you walk in and we're just like, oh look, it's like handwritten napkins from SNL of idea sketches, or you saw Dave Chappelle's like jumpsuit from his comedy specials. We're like, oh, that's cool. And then we saw, I was geeking out, they had the real Sacco from Bo Burnham's Inside. And I was like, oh my God, it's the actual Sacco. And it almost brought tears to my eyes, because that was like very pivotal for me during the pandemic, was that comedy special. So I was like, oh my God, it's Sacco. And then another show that I love is I Think You Should Leave on Netflix. It's like the weirdest, most random sketch comedy show ever. I don't know if I can confidently recommend it to you guys, but I've seen every episode. I quote it all the time. It's one of my favorite shows. And they had on there memorabilia pieces from the show as well. And so I was like, oh my God, it's an actual Dan Flash shirt. Like, oh my God, it's the mask from that one episode. So it was really cool, because again, it made you feel more brand loyal to Netflix and all of the comedy that they're bringing to you, but it also got you very nostalgic and got you to remind yourself of how much you love comedy and all these other little pieces that it's like, wow, I am here witnessing history, and I am here being part of these comedians creating new memorabilia, perhaps. So it was just really cool. I really liked that about the Fan Fest. So the last show we went to go see was the LGBTQ stand-up show at the Greek Theater. I was super excited for this show because it was set to be the largest gathering of gay and queer comedians in history. And it was gonna be a super fun event. They were picking it as like a very inclusive and welcoming environment, and just like a large gathering of queer people, which I was all for. So my friends and I, we all picnicked before at the Greek Theater, and then we headed into the venue. And this was like, again, I was like, this is the branding you needed at every single show. They had this giant display that said "Stand Out," which is the name of the show, that was interactive, that they had an actual employee standing there taking photos of people of. They also had other types of step and repeats and backdrops that you could take photos of, that again, there was an employee there, stationed there being like, would you guys like a photo? Don't forget to tag us. As somebody in marketing, that's what you need. That's what's gonna spread the word. That's what's gonna get people posting on social media, creating that chatter and creating that buzz. But it also made it so much more memorable as an attendee, as an audience member, to have these photos to look back on and have it feel a little bit more branded and a little bit more special. So I was geeking out about that kind of stuff, because I'm like, yes, this is what you need. Now, let's talk about the actual show itself. The show was also another victim of it just being too large of a venue for a comedy show, that there was just a lot of chatter, there was just a lot of drunk people, that a lot of people weren't focusing on the jokes. However, I think where this venue did better than the Bill Burr venue was that, I don't know, I guess their mics were louder, or the comedians were a lot better at being like, shut up everyone, like I'm talking kind of thing. So it wasn't as distracting as the Bill Burr show. However, there were almost too many comedians for this show. So let me read you all of the people that were at this show, which, mind you, was incredible, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear from every single one of those person. But it was a lot. So they had Eddie Izzard, Margaret Cho, Sandra Bernhardt, Tig Notaro, Wanda Sykes, Billy Eichner, Solomon Giorgio, Sam J, River Butcher, Patty Harrison, Mateo Lane, Marsha Warfield, Mae Martin, Judy Gold, Joe Kim Booster, Bob the Drag Queen, Trixie Mattel, Todd Glass, Scott Thompson, and more that I'm not even gonna name. Every single one of those people had about a tight 5, which means they only get 5 minutes to perform. So while you got the quantity of comedians, and again, it was supposed to be this large gathering of gay and queer comedians, you didn't really get a full feel for their humor. You didn't really get to hear a full set. It was as if they just had to do a quick little bit and then be like, okay guys, bye, thanks, and then they were gone. And so it almost left me itching for more, because there were other comedians where I was like, who is this? Like, okay, that was okay, but we don't really get a full concept of what their actual humor is like. Or I'd see somebody like Bob the drag queen, who I'd love, and I'd be like, Bob, yes! He goes up and tells 3 jokes, and I was like, all right guys, bye. And it was just like, oh no, come back, I want more, Bob, no. Now where this was their downfall was this was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen at a comedy show, and I've seen lots of comedy shows, was they were building up for the headliners, who were Wanda Sykes and Rosie O'Donnell, who were kind of like the most iconic large names of all of these comedians. So Wanda Sykes goes up at about 10:50 p.m. and says, hey guys, like, well, they're telling me we need to leave soon, so I don't really get to do my whole set, but I just want to thank you guys for coming out here. Like, thanks so much, bye. And like hands the microphone back. And we're all just kind of like, Wanda, what? Like, what the heck? They're like, all right, and here's Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell comes out, says like 1 or 2 quips, and then goes, well, sorry guys, like we're getting kicked out of this venue, so we have to head out. But again, thanks guys so much. We're gonna end on like a song. And so then they bring out all of the other comedians and we sing Gays Just Wanna Have Fun. Not girls, but gays. And then we all got glow sticks when we walked in. That was another great thing. They gave us all glow sticks so that we could take a video of everybody waving these rainbow glow sticks. Super cool, super fun. But it was so bizarre how you were building up to these 2 giant headliners that everybody was so excited to see, that they couldn't even do their sets because the Greek theater was like, hey, it's 11 p.m. You guys got to get out of here. We got curfew. We got to get these employees off the clock. Like, get out of here. It was odd. So those were some of the shows that I went to for the Netflix Is a Joke Comedy Festival. So now I'm just going to go over and reiterate some of the places that, you know, were kind of negatives, some positives, as well as ways that I think Netflix can improve. So Mr. Netflix, if you're watching this, hello. I have some suggestions for you to improve this festival for next year. If you would like to hire me as a consultant, please don't honk. I'm busy. Gosh, my pitch is ruined. So I guess I'll work my way backwards from the most recent one that I talked about. If you have a curfew for a venue with thousands and thousands of people watching and you're building up to this headliner, make sure you start on time. So this actual show was 15 minutes late. And those exact 15 minutes were all we probably would have needed for Wanda and Rosie. We probably wouldn't have even noticed if they cut their sets a little bit short, but because you took away those whole 15 minutes from the beginning by starting late, we didn't get to see some of the people we were most excited to see. It also felt really weird how we were quickly getting kicked out of this venue. So maybe like work with the venues a little bit more and kind of orchestrate that a little bit better so that way it doesn't feel like we're getting cheated out of our ticket prices. Suggestion number 2 is get more ushers to kind of shush the crowd a little bit, or just have the performers kind of remind the crowd that, hey, there is still an etiquette for these comedy shows. While yes, we're laughing, yes, we're joking, and yes, you want to turn to your partner and repeat the exact joke that the comedian said, there's still an etiquette to it, and you still need to be quiet so you can hear the performers. And I don't feel like it should be the responsibility of other concert and audience members to be the ones shushing others to shut up just so they can hear the joke. So maybe more ushers who are more in tune with quieting the crowd a little bit. I feel like that would just make the experience a lot better as an attendee. And then I've said it before and I'll say it again. Branding, branding, branding. You need more of that branding. The last few shows that I went to in terms of the LGBTQ standout show and the Fan Fest, incredible. I took so many photos. I was giving you guys free promotion just because you were giving me free backdrops. That's what it is. It's a mutual exchange. You're gonna get so many more eyes on your festival, so many ears buzzing about all the cool shows going on, if you just provide more of that branding. The first 2 shows I went to, there was not the word Netflix in sight. Although I do think Bill Burr had some posters, but again, it just didn't feel like a collective festival. Now, I do have other suggestions in terms of making this a more holistic festival, because even when I ended, it still felt like I went to individual shows rather than a complete festival. So I think you need to tie in some of these individual events more together to give people an incentive to attend more than just one show. So I thought it was really cool that Neal Brennan was going to the Fan Fest, and I think it would be cooler if he was using it as a way to promote his show coming up in a couple of days. Maybe you could do some sort of raffle or some sort of giveaway where it was like, that was Neal Brennan, want to see him in 2 days? Like, here's our raffle. Like, take pictures with 10 of these backdrops, tag us on Instagram, and you could win. And it will get people to go to more events and create that more holistic festival approach. Similarly, I think that the Fan Fest was such a great idea. That was probably the highlight of the entire festival for me, not only in terms of the branding and making it feel like a festival, but it felt more interactive. It felt like there were more things to do than just putting my butt in a seat and listening to a comedy show. I think you should do more mini festivals at some of these larger shows. So for example, I go to a lot of sporting events. I go to USC games. They'll have these little mini fan fests where they'll have, people spray painting free merch, or they'll be giving out little samples of food. They'll have inflatable games. They'll have backdrops that you can autograph. Silly little interactive things that really aren't expensive to you as a company, but creates more of a buzz and creates more of an event for the attendee, that it just feels more of like they're going and doing something and not just going to watch a show. So little fan fests with little interactive activities before some of these larger shows at, say, the Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena, screw you, at the Forum, at the Greek Theater. I think that'll just create more for a night out and a fun thing to do rather than just a regular comedy show. Now, I know they did this for Gabriel Iglesias' show at the Dodger Stadium, where, mind you, he was the first comedian to ever perform there, which is super awesome. And they did a very specific Fluffy, which is like his nickname, kind of fan fest. I think you need something like that for a lot of the bigger shows. Perhaps I think it wouldn't make financial sense to do it at Neal Brennan show at this tiny little theater, but I do think you need more activities and events kind of preluding each show to get people to come out and more tailgate for these shows. I don't want to say tailgate, but give them more of an experience than just a singular show, because that's just gonna feel like a show, And my last suggestion is kind of going back to the very beginning, where I feel like I didn't even get the opportunity to buy tickets for some of these comedians before I even learned what the festival was. I think you should have promoted this huge festival and said all of the big names who have already committed and created hype for like a month or two and really gotten people excited from all across the country. I have friends who are on the East Coast, in the Midwest, who they did not receive a single ad. They did not even hear about it, and they still have no idea what I'm talking about. And it's because by the time you guys promoted the event, all of the good comedians were sold out, so you couldn't really promote those big names. You couldn't really say that Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were doing a show here. So what I think you should do is create hype, get people from across the nation to sort of plan already to go to this festival, to be like, hey, you guys want to go to LA for this weekend and see like 10 of our favorite comedians? Okay, tickets drop in a month, like let's get ready to buy them, sort of thing. And that'll create more hype nationally and hopefully create more ticket sales for you guys. I don't think you had problems selling tickets necessarily, but I think it's more creating that nationwide hype and buzz around your festival. Another kind of tactic you could use is releasing your tickets in waves, because I had seen that a lot of these comedians were sold out. I really wanted to go see Conan O'Brien, but he was sold out and he stays sold out. However, if there was another wave, like wave 2 months before the actual event, where it was like, all right, we're dropping another 500 tickets, then I felt like I would have had a chance. I would have created more buzz. I also could have been posting on social media being like, oh my gosh, I got tickets for this, so excited. That again, it would create different waves of promotional free buzz for you, where I think it would have just made more sense to release the tickets a little bit later than promoting your event or releasing them in waves to get everybody to sign up for these comedians. I feel like I'm talking around in circles here, but I hope that makes sense. But overall thoughts, I am absolutely 100% without a doubt going to this next year. It was so great. I got to experience different venues that I've never been to before. I got to learn some new comedians. I got to see some of my favorite comedians, not my absolute top most awesomest ever comedians because they were already sold out. But it gets me excited for next year, and I absolutely would recommend it to you guys. I think that with just some minor changes, some of these shows could be greatly improved, but a lot of these suggestions that I'm making are purely for like a Netflix business standpoint and not even for the audience member. Because honestly, if you go see a comedy show, you're gonna love the comedy you see. You're gonna love the show, no notes there. But in terms of making it a more holistic festival, Mr. Netflix, these are my suggestions, and I hope you take them to heart. But that's gonna be it for this video, kind of a Storytime review and how my overall experience went. Let me know in the comments if this is a festival that you guys would be interested in going, or who some of your favorite comedians are, because I'm still kind of dabbling in the world of comedy, and so I'd love to check out some of the specials of some of your favorite comedians. So let me know down below. In addition, if you want to see some of the actual behind the scenes footage of me going to all of these events, that vlog will be dropping soon. So make sure to go follow my vlog channel so you can see me actually personally going to all of these events. I know I've included some B-roll, but it's not like some of the actual commentary. So make sure to go follow that along. I'll leave the link in the description below. But I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles! And like, Mr. Netflix, if you're watching, maybe you could get me like VIP tickets next year to some of the shows, like Ben Schwartz. He was sold out. I couldn't go see Ben Schwartz. Or Please Don't Destroy. Love those boys. You know, just hook a girl up. I'll be your consultant. I'll get you social media followers. Just call me.